Okay, okay. All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our first web launch of the Commission's request for proposals. My name's Andrew Muir. I'm Director of Science for the Great Lakes Fishery Commission. Before we get started, I'm going to turn it over to Carrie Baker, Assistant Programs Manager, to provide a few housekeeping items. Carrie?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. So just a few housekeeping items. Please rename your window by clicking on the three dots in the upper right-hand corner of your window to your first and last name and your affiliation if it fits. Please remain muted throughout the presentation. If you're having any technical issues, please use the chat to contact either Julie Hinderer or Jess Ives, who can help you. And then during the question and answer period, we'll use the raise hand feature to have some discussion, or feel free to drop any questions in the chat. And finally, as a reminder, we are recording this presentation and it will be publicly accessible on our website following today. So by staying on, you are consenting to being recorded. I think that is all we have. So go ahead, Andrew.
Okay, thank you, Carrie. So today we're going to provide a brief presentation, and then we've got quite a bit of time for discussion where we'll try to address any of your questions that you may have with respect to the Commission's request for proposal process or submitting proposals. So we'll just start by introducing staff, and we've got a number of board members, research board members, as well as task force members joining us today. So we'll start with staff. You met Carrie Baker. Julie, would you mind introducing yourself?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Julie Hinderer, and I'm the Science Programs Manager at the Commission, and I also coordinate the Science Transfer Program.
And we'll provide you with a contact for staff at the end of the presentation in case you have further questions. Jess, would you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, I'm Jess Ives. I'm the Special Projects Coordinator with the Commission.
Ted Tresca.
I'm Ted Tresca. I'm with the Sea Lamprey Control Program here at the Commission.
And Mike Sifkas.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mike Sifkas. I'm the Sea Lamprey Control Director at the Great Lakes Fishery Commission.
All right, thanks. So staff are able to address any specific questions you might have. We have a number of board members joining us. So I'll start with Dan Zielinski.
Good afternoon. My name is Dan Zielinski. I'm Principal Engineer and Scientist with the Great Lakes Fishery Commission and Project Lead on the Fish Pass project up in Traverse City, Michigan.
Thanks. Kelly Robinson.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kelly Robinson. I'm the chair of the Sea Lamprey Research Board. I'm with the Georgia Cooperative Fish and Wildlife Research Unit down in Athens, Georgia.
Great. Margaret Docker.
Sorry, I'm in a hotel room here. Yeah. So I'm Margaret Docker. I'm at the University of Manitoba. I'm on the Sea Lamprey Research Board, and I'm the theme lead for the genetic control theme.
Great, thanks. Mike Wilkie.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Mike Wilkie. I'm a professor at Wilfrid Laurier University and a member of the Sea Lamprey Research Board and the external science advisor to the Lampricide Control Task Force.
David.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm David McCauley. I'm a faculty member at the University of Oklahoma. I'm on the Sea Lamprey Research Board.
And Nick Johnson, please.
Good afternoon, Nick Johnson. I work with the U.S. Geological Survey, and I'm the director of Hammond Bay Biological Station in northern Michigan.
And Wei Ming Lee. I think that's the last of our board members. Actually, is Wei Ming on? Yes, he is.
Yes, Wei Ming Lee. I'm a member of the Fisheries and Wildlife faculty in Michigan State University, and I'm also a research scientist for the Great Lakes Fishery Commission.
Excellent. And I think I saw Aaron Jubar, who is chair of one of the Commission's Sea Lamprey Control Task Forces.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Aaron Jubar. I'm with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Ludington Biological Station. We are one of the Sea Lamprey Control agents, and I'm also the Larval Assessment Task Force Chair for the Sea Lamprey Control Board.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, so hopefully I got everybody. Our objectives for today are first to provide a high-level overview of the Commission's research programs and funding processes. Secondly, to highlight specific research needs for the fishery and sea lamprey programs. And then third, to connect investigators with the research boards and board members, and to hopefully answer any of your questions. The Commission has a number of funding programs. I'm going to talk about some of those other programs at the end of the presentation, but the two main programs that we would like to focus on today are the fishery and, in this case, sea lamprey research programs. So for the fishery program, the main goal is to generate and make accessible a portfolio of science to inform the conservation and rehabilitation of healthy Great Lakes ecosystems that sustain fisheries and benefit society. For sea lamprey, the primary goal is to generate and make accessible a portfolio of science to further the integrated control of sea lampreys, including the development of novel, effective strategies. The Commission's funding programs are highly competitive. So this slide shows funding rates, mean funding rates over the past 5 years. We typically receive a high number of pre-proposals. That's shown by these dark blue bubbles here, which gets winnowed down through the review process to a subset of full proposals that are requested. And then of those, slightly more than half are recommended to the Commission for funding. So only 21% of the fishery pre-proposals are ultimately funded, and about 33% of the sea lamprey pre-proposals are ultimately funded. I mentioned the programs are highly competitive, which sometimes gets misinterpreted. I want to dispel the myth that you have to be part of the club to acquire Commission funding, because that's just not the case, and the data bear that out. A high priority for the Commission has always been to bring new investigators into the programs. That's part of why we're here today. We have been successful at doing that over the past, actually since the inception of the program. So over the past 5 years, we've had an average of 2 new investigators funded in each of those programs. So really that's quite impressive that 2 new people make it all the way through that entire process, going from 41 and 16 in terms of numbers of pre-proposals through to the full funding stage. So that's always been a priority. Roughly each year, 25% of the fishery and 40% of the sea lamprey proposals funded are led by new investigators. So that's really important and something that we're going to continue to focus on doing better at in the years to come. During the history of the program, we had about 120 different institutions have been contracted. So our programs are broad. They cast a wide net and are available to everyone. So I'm going to now turn it back over to Carrie, who's going to talk a bit about our current request for proposals. Carrie.
Thanks, Andrew. So just wanted to briefly highlight this year's call for proposals, as Andrew said. You can also find all of this information online. Jess just dropped the link in the chat, or it's on the slide there if you're looking for it. So pre-proposals are due January 15th, 2024, and they should be submitted to our online proposal system. You can find the templates for our pre-proposals online, and the templates contain all of the instructions for completing the pre-proposals. Really briefly, I just wanted to highlight our research theme areas. So our research program is organized around 5 different theme areas: assessment, barriers and trapping, chemosensory communication, genetic control, and lampricides. So these theme areas describe important areas of research for the Sea Lamprey Control Program, and you can find specific information about each of these themes online, and then also within our theme papers that you can find online. I strongly encourage you to, oops, sorry, Andrew, go back, to read those theme papers and review the Sea Lamprey Control Board research priorities. Any proposals outside of these research areas can be submitted to non-theme research. Go ahead, Andrew. And to just briefly review this year's special call for topics, special topics. So we have 2 this year, Indigenous-led Sea Lamprey research. So we are specifically looking for proposals aimed at investigating the effects of sea lamprey control on issues and ecosystems important to Indigenous peoples around the Great Lakes Basin. Any pre-proposals submitted under this research area are expected to be Indigenous-led or have Indigenous partners fully engaged from project proposal development through project completion. We do want to acknowledge that we are still learning in this space and that Indigenous-led proposals may differ from other research proposals historically submitted to our programs. While all of the proposals will be held to the same standard of excellence, we do encourage applicants to be creative and collaborative to address research needs that are in ways that are meaningful to the communities that they serve. Our second special call this year is highlighting the production potential of newly opened habitats. This remains a high priority for the Sea Lamprey Control Board and will provide important information for barrier removal and fish restoration decision-making. If you're interested in this research area, I encourage you to reach out to Sea Lamprey Control agents, and I'm happy to serve as a liaison for anybody in that area. Go ahead, Andrew. And then finally, I just really wanted to highlight our proposal system. So just drop the link to the proposal system where you'll submit your proposal documents. The instructions for the system are all online, and you'll navigate through the different tabs up top there to input all of your information. And that's all I have.
Okay, great. Thank you, Carrie. So our funding is allocated on a 1-year cycle, beginning now in September, with the release of our 2024 request for proposals, which solicits projects to begin in January of 2025. Pre-proposals are due. I don't know if can you see my cursor, Carrie?
Yes.
Pre-proposals are due here around the 15th of January. The research boards then convene in March to review pre-proposals. Successful pre-proposals are invited to submit a full proposal, which is due the 1st of June. Full proposals are then subject to an external review, which is coordinated by one of the board members with relevant expertise in that area. And then all board members also review all of the proposals for which they are qualified, and they use the peer reviews to engage in a discussion during their September meeting to review those proposals and ultimately make a recommendation to the commission on which projects they should consider for funding. The commission then reviews those recommendations at their December interim meeting, which is actually happening tomorrow in Ann Arbor for the 2024 projects under consideration. And then upon approval, projects can then begin on 01 January of the following year. So it's roughly a 1-year cycle. Our website, which I'm going to kind of walk you through some of that in a couple of slides, provide details on proposal review and evaluation process. But at the pre-proposal stage, really the game is to get your foot in the door. So focusing on some of the key elements that the boards are reviewing at that particular stage is critical. Pre-proposals are only 1 page in length, so you need to be concise, but provide cogent rationale for your work and demonstrate how it meets the needs of the commission and its partners. You also need to demonstrate that the research that's being proposed is broadly feasible, So here we're talking about demonstrating that samples are or can be acquired, providing proof of concept for methods, making sure that the budget is commensurate with the proposed methods, and also ensuring that you've constructed a team of co-investigators that have the appropriate skill set to implement the methods. So here we want to focus on not just stating what you're going to do, but really trying to demonstrate to the board that you can actually do what you're proposing. So broad feasibility. It's at the full proposal stage where we get into more details with respect to the scientific merit and the scientific feasibility. So the full proposal is the place where investigators provide detailed literature synthesis and full methods. One of the key areas to focus on during the pre-proposal stage is the objectives. We provide some detailed instructions in our proposal templates for developing your research objectives. While much of the work that the Commission funds, particularly in the Sea Lamprey Research Program, is very highly applied, we do maintain that basic science is important and will be considered. So one of the problems that we do see in pre-proposals often is that researchers try to force descriptive or hypothesis generation kinds of research into a hypothesis testing framework, and it just doesn't work. So really be explicit about what you're proposing and don't force it. It's okay to propose descriptive science, but be upfront about what it is and what it is not when you're putting your pre-proposal together. The Commission and its boards have placed an emphasis on diversity, equity, inclusion, and cultural competency over the last couple of years. These principles are just recently beginning to be reflected in our programs, and we're asking PIs or investigators not just to submit a statement about DEIC, diversity, equity, inclusion, and cultural competence, but to try and demonstrate how those principles and the actions that you take contribute to inclusive excellence and how those are built into your proposed research as opposed to just a statement about what you might do. One way to do that is to partner with local experts, including Indigenous communities. When working within Indigenous territories, please ensure that you communicate with affected nations and where feasible partner. I mentioned this previously, but if your research requires agency or institution facilities, for example, vessel time or sample collections, we advise that you have those discussions with the agencies well ahead of time. The agencies plan a year at least out for their field seasons, and it makes it very hard for them to post hoc build in the capacity to meet your research needs. So good planning and thinking about this well in advance is really critical. Finally, I mentioned our commitment to new investigators and bringing them into the programs. For that reason, I'm willing to discuss research ideas and review pre-proposals prior to submission. I mentioned that I'm only one person and I can't speak for the boards, but I can help sort of head off some of the common challenges we do see with pre-proposals. So we're happy to do that, happy to help in any way that we can. In some cases, research theme leads are also often willing to help discuss research ideas and help guide new investigators. So please do reach out. Again, we'll drop a email contact in the slide at the end of this presentation, so you can contact us if you would like to talk to anyone with specific expertise. So over the next few slides, I'm going to walk you through some elements of our website and highlight some of the resources available to prospective investigators. If you want, you can open a browser and follow along, but we're going to start here at Science and Research, and then we're going to go to the Funding for Research page, which looks something like this. This first subpage here brings up a whole bunch of information about our different funding programs, links to previously funded research. I encourage you to explore that because it gives you a good sense for the kinds of things funded by the board and the kinds of products that come out of commission funded research. This page also provides a handy decision tool somewhere here, right here where it says unsure where your project fits. I'm going to walk you through that at the end of the presentation here, but that's very helpful to see where your ideas may fit with respect to some of the Commission's funding programs. You can also access all of the templates, forms and templates here on this page. There's also a link up here in the sub-menu. So within that sub-menu, first want to draw your attention to the policies and guidelines page. Under funding for research. This page provides detailed policies regarding new investigator criteria, for example, data sharing, equipment, access, publications, and indirect costs. So it's a good idea if you want to understand some of the details about those items, you can review those policies. Please take a look at those before submitting or preparing your pre-proposal. We also provide investigators with specific instructions for peer review, so you can get a sense for how your proposal or full proposal, should you get to that point, will be reviewed. So that's helpful to kind of help you head off some of those questions that are provided to peer reviewers at the full proposal stage. Next page I want to draw your attention to is the forms and templates page, and this has a link to each of the different kinds of templates or forms for all of the funding programs. The forms do differ for each of the programs, so please make sure that you are using the correct form. The science resources and facilities page provides information on some of the Commission-supported facilities that could be potentially of use to investigators. For example, USGS's Hammond Bay Biological Station, which Nick is the director of. That's a world-class Sea Lamprey Research Institute. They have all kinds of facilities and expertise that could be of use to folks seeking to do Sea Lamprey research. They also coordinate the provisioning of animals to support research. So you can check out information about Hammond Bay on that page. The Commission also facilitates the Great Lakes Acoustic Telemetry Observation System, or GLADOS, and there's a link and description of the GLADOS network on there if people are interested in accessing that network to look at movement of animals. That's a good resource there. We also support RAYON, the Real-Time Aquatic Ecosystem Observation Network. This is run out of the University of Windsor. There's a whole bunch of monitoring and assessment equipment that's available for use there through that link. Finally, the Great Lakes Aquatic Habitat Framework. This is a geospatial framework and database that's available if you're looking at doing work that ties ecology or biology to habitat, for example, physical habitat. This is a great resource. And then there's also links to, I mentioned Sea Lamprey procurement that's run out of Hammond Bay, links to that form. And then where quantitative expertise is needed, we do support Michigan State University's Quantitative Fisheries Center. Sometimes those folks will act as consultants for projects or help support project development where it's needed. And we recently launched at the University of Guelph the Center for Ecosystem Management. That's another potential resource if you're looking to do ecosystem sort of scope and scale work. So I previously mentioned the decision tree that you can get to from the main page there. This is really useful for helping align your work to the Commission's funding programs. So in addition to fishery and sea lamprey research programs, the Commission supports pilot projects, science transfer projects, and technical assistance for both sea lamprey control and fishery management. One program I want to highlight here is the pilot project item. So that can be found down here. The decision point here is the budget less than $20,000, length of the project less than 1 year? If the answer is yes, this could qualify as a pilot project. And pilots are really, really helpful because they're intended to help you collect some preliminary data, test a method, test the feasibility of equipment or ground truth a method, and provide some pilot data, which then could be used to support or justify a full proposal. So it's a really good route to take if you're new or you've got new ideas that you want to kind of ground truth and use those, collect some preliminary data to justify a full proposal. The second program I want to highlight is science transfer. Julie Hinder, who's on, runs our science transfer program. The program is intended to put data and information generated throughout the basin and beyond into the hands of managers and sea lamprey control agents in novel ways that are digestible to them and to their constituents. So I encourage you to further explore the science transfer page and to contact Julie if you have any questions about science transfer program. And Jess, I think, dropped the link for that in the chat for the science transfer page. So I'm just going to revisit the funding cycle I previously showed you. I want to note that we do accept pilot and technical assistance proposals during both spring and fall. There are two times when you could submit those proposals, because these projects have a much quicker turnaround time compared to the full fishery and sea lamprey proposals. And with that, I'll end and open the discussion. Here's an email that we will get. This is monitored all the time in comparison to our emails that get full up pretty quick. So if you have any questions, queries, or want to contact us, you can use that. Here's the staff in science that you can reach out to. And I'll end by asking any of the board members if there's anything they want to add to the material that we presented today that they think might be helpful to potential investigators. Once again, if you have a question, just use the raise hand feature or pop it in the chat. Board members, do you have anything to add to the material we presented today, or any thoughts you want to share with potential investigators? Mike, go ahead.
I just want to emphasize something that Andrew mentioned at the outset, that how important it is to reach out to board members and Andrew and others who can help you with your proposal, provide you with critical feedback, constructive feedback on what you're thinking, because really, as a board member, I think the biggest problem we have with many of the pre-proposals is relevance. Andrew mentioned forcing some of your research questions and trying to make them relevant when they're truly not. And I think speaking to sea lamprey control agents or fisheries experts at the Great Lakes, board members, Andrew himself can actually really help ground your research and make it clearer to the commission and to the boards reviewing it how important it can actually be. So please don't hesitate to reach out to anybody for assistance, because it can really, really help. It's helped me a lot in the past.
Great. Kelly and Nick, I know you have to jump off. Did you want to add anything? Thanks, Mike.
I think Mike took most of what I was gonna mention, but I do want to, just kind of tacking onto that. This is a kind of a different program than many of the granting programs that you might apply to, because it is very specific to the needs for sea lamprey control and understanding how we can do a better job with that. So I agree with Mike wholeheartedly. Speaking with folks who have that experience and have that knowledge is really important. And everyone on that other side knows that people are trying to get this research done, so they're usually quite happy to talk about these things.
Yeah, I'll add from Hammond Bay perspective. I think chatting with some folks like myself or the control agents can be very helpful for understanding what life stages of lampreys are available and when, and what some of the limitations are with some of the juvenile life stages. So those have been helpful discussions that we've had in the past as well with new researchers.
Great, thanks, Nick. Margaret, go ahead.
Yeah, and I'm repeating what's already been said, but I just figure it can't hurt I can't stress it enough that we really do want to bring in new investigators, that we recognize that there's a lot of skill sets out there by people outside of the Sea Lamprey community, outside of the Great Lakes Basin, that have skill sets that can really contribute to the Sea Lamprey research program. And so we can't stress that enough. Encourage you to reach out, that if you've got a skill set that you think would be really useful, but you don't necessarily have the Sea Lamprey background. I mean, that's what we have, but we don't have, say, some of those expert skills that you have. So we really do encourage you to reach out and think creatively about how you can lend the skills that you do have to some of the questions that can be addressed through this program.
Excellent. All right, I'm gonna, Aaron Jubar, if I could put you on the spot for a moment here, and then we'll see if there's any questions from the guests. Aaron, what's the best way to connect with control agents, in your opinion, or any tips for working with the agents? Maybe others can also chime in on that.
Yeah, Andrew, I mean, I'm happy to field, questions, and especially when it comes to things like feasibility, for different research projects. Obviously, it was mentioned earlier that, we plan well in advance our normal field work, and the sooner that we know about a potential project that might involve procurement of specimens from the field, let's say, the better for us to try to work that in and make that happen, because sometimes the research question can be very sound, the relevance is high, but yet the feasibility can be really low, just based on and a lot of that might just boil down to just some of the researchers not knowing what is available to them in the field. So but yeah, reaching out to me directly, in terms of, especially in larval assessment side of things, the other task force chairs, I don't think I'm not sure if any are on the call, but would be good depending on the research area. But reaching out to the control agent leadership, and they can put researchers in touch with the right folks on the ground.
Excellent, thanks. Yeah, and if you reach out through that research email, we can also put you in contact with Ted Tresca and Mike Siefkas, who are Secretariat staff, and they are highly connected to all of the control agents. They know the best people to approach, so that's a good way to reach control agents as well. Wei Ming, please go ahead.
Hi, Andrew. I agree with all the suggestions and the comments about the contacting board members. I think it's particularly helpful for new investigators. But while I'm listening to the comments, just another aspect I think we should also probably think about for, it just reminds me of my postdoctoral experience. I was in a lab that's heavily funded by NIH. So before they submit proposals, they often think about what board members could vote against the proposal. So they will contact the board members on purpose and discuss it, and then essentially generate a conflict of interest. Then the board member has to say, just cannot vote on it. So I would suggest maybe we need some guidelines on what kind of questions are useful for the new investigators and what are to be avoided. So.
Yeah, that's a great point, Wei Ming, and that's something we're very highly cognizant of, is conflict of interest in reviewing the proposals, and that's partly why we gave you our Secretariat email as opposed to the individual emails of all the folks on here, because we can help avoid putting people in those kinds of places by talking with folks who are going to be ultimately voting on the proposal. But it is helpful, I think others have mentioned, it is helpful to get input from folks in particular who are leading themes in some cases, but specifically with the agents. But we'll help you navigate any of those challenges that Wei Ming raised there. And in some cases, we may advise against it because you're going to have board members with particular expertise in the room to actually review the proposal. So good point, but we'll help navigate some of that for you. Okay, do any new investigators or investigators who are considering submitting a proposal have any questions for us? Okay, how many of you then do plan on submitting a pre-proposal for this cycle? Please raise your hand. Okay. So we definitely have a few. Okay. Anne is giving us the thumbs up. Okay, that's great. Well, hopefully this information is helpful to you. If you think of any questions, you certainly are welcome to email us. We just did one of these webinars last week for fisheries, and I was surprised about 5 or 6 people now have emailed me with specific questions and interests. So that's really great. And Carrie and I have set up a call with a couple of people. We've got a couple more people we're going to try to meet with over the coming weeks. So if questions come up, please feel free to reach out to us. Really appreciate all of the board members and agents showing up here and helping today. That was super. Thank you all. We appreciate it. And we will make this recording available to others. I know we had quite a few other registrants who obviously couldn't make it, so we'll make this available to them. Carrie, anything I missed? Julie, anything you want to add?
Nope. Thanks everyone for joining.
Thank you, everybody.